Idaho Strategic Resources.
Good afternoon. My name is Travis Swallow. I'm representing Idaho Strategic Resources. My job title is Stakeholder Relations and Corporate Development, but at our company, we all wear multiple hats. And I do feel like I should preface this by saying that there's a few gentlemen behind me with a little bit more gray hair than myself who they make the decisions. I just have the privilege of presenting here today. So I'll give you guys a brief overview of who Idaho Strategic is and what we do. Sorry, we are publicly traded, so I had to have that in there. So Idaho Strategic Resources, we're a very Idaho-focused company. Our operations are all located in the state of Idaho, in the northern part in the Panhandle. We're actually Idaho's largest gold producer. That's where our Golden Chest mine is. And then we just actually at the start of COVID added a significant rare earth elements land package in the central part of Idaho, right outside the town of Salmon. And so we've got our corporate headquarters up in Coeur d'Alene and then a field office down in Salmon, Idaho. And another interesting point about our company is we're actually domiciled in Idaho. And when we were going through the process in 2022 of uplisting onto the New York Stock Exchange, one of the things that we were asked is, are you a Delaware corporation? And us being kind of Idaho through and through, we asked the question, why do we need to be a Delaware corp? And nobody gave us a good enough answer. And so we went ahead and we stayed domiciled in Idaho, kind of that true Idahoan spirit. So we're actually one of the only Idaho domiciled companies on the New York Stock Exchange today. So to dive a little deeper into our operations, the Golden Chest mine is, like I said, the largest gold producer in the state of Idaho. And we're a vertically integrated company, meaning we do our own exploration, we do our own drilling, we do our own milling, we do our own mining. So we've got the experience of doing every stage of the mineral extraction process and processing. And that's really helped us on the rare earth element side of our business because we're able to take this operating track record that we have in the Panhandle region of Idaho and apply that same model to our central Idaho rare earth properties. And one of the things we focused on, we call it our aim small, miss small strategy, and you'll see it up there on the slide. And this is really the belief that with a big plan potentially comes big problems. And when we started out in 2016 putting this mine into production, we started out small and we wanted to prove ourselves to the community and we wanted to prove ourselves to ourselves. As silly as that sounds, we needed to prove to everybody that we could do this and we could operate sustainably in the state of Idaho really before we started promoting ourselves. And so to give you an overview of the rare earth element market, I think Ben touched on it in his talk earlier, it's the same story as with every critical mineral. The US needs it, we're relying on China for it. And so one of the interesting things, we came down here today to talk about Idaho's rare earth element endowment. And we'll get to that. But when we walked in the door this morning, Ben at the Idaho Mining Association handed us these really nice pins. And these pins represent the Idaho Mining Association. Well, these pins are actually held to our shirts with a rare earth element magnet that was made in China. And so we walked in the door, and it was a pretty good dose of reality for us of what we're up against as a country with the kind of the extent of the dependence on China that we have. And the flow chart at the bottom of this slide, I'll call your attention to, was actually given to me by a member of the DoD. And this flow chart shows it was put in place back in 2019. There was a piece of legislature passed that mandated that for our defense industry, the rare earth elements used in our F-35 fighter jets, our Virginia-class submarines, that by January 1, 2026, those rare earth elements need to be sourced from friendly countries. And there's a list of countries that are excluded from that, and China is obviously one of those. And back in 2019, when they put that in place, 2026 probably seemed like a ways away. But here we are in 2024, just 2 years away, and the U.S. has one rare earth element mine operating in the state of California that still ships all of its rare earths to China for processing. So that kind of, again, shows the gravity of the situation. And really, it kind of gives you a good idea of the timeline that we're up against as well. question earlier was about the permitting timeline, and Ben answered it well. But we're up against this 2026 deadline as far as rare earth elements go. And, I didn't hear Ben say 2 years is all it takes to get a mine permitted and in production in the state of Idaho. And that's kind of what we're looking at. So I'll talk a little bit about our rare earth projects. We've got the Mineral Hill Project, the Diamond Creek Project, and the Lemhi Pass Project. And collectively, these three projects actually make up the largest rare earth elements land package in the country. And Idaho's mineral endowment, I can't understate how impressive it is. Our Mineral Hill Project, we've actually sampled some of the highest grade rare earth elements in the world, up to 34% total rare earth oxides. And that's compared to Mountain Pass, which is considered a world-class operating rare earth mine. They're anywhere from the 8 to 12% range. And so while ours is still an exploration stage project, I'd rather start at 34% and work backwards as we do more work than start lower than that. And then our Lemhi Pass project in the southern portion of this Idaho rare earth element trend, that's a project it's actually one of 4 in the world that is it shares geological similarities with the Bayonobos, the Mountain Passes, and the Mount Welds. And so all 3 of those projects I just named are across the globe, and they're all operating rare earth element mines. Bayonobo is the largest in China, that produces the most in the world. Mountain Pass is in California, it produces the most in the US, but we ship it to China. Mount Weld's in Australia, and currently all of that goes to Japan. Japan has the offtake there. And the only project not in production, or not even really advanced very far, that shares similarities to those 3 projects is Lemhi Pass in Idaho. And we have that. And our strategy is to take the cash flow from our Golden Chest gold operations and invest those into our rare earth element projects. But the trouble is, we're still a small gold producer. It's not like we're advancing this at, rapid speed. We're doing it $500,000 at a time, whenever we can. And so that's been our, when we talk to folks at the DOD and the DOE, that's one of our talking points, is it's going to take some significant investment from those on Capitol Hill to move these projects forward at an expedited pace. And I'll touch a little bit on our strategy as Idahoans, but really it's our way of doing business, it's our way of life, and it's this we live here approach. And I think Ben did a great job talking about it earlier, that the folks in Idaho, we can do this, we can do mining. Idaho's known for mining, and it's a lot better to encourage mining in the state of Idaho where we have stringent regulations than to offshore it to, say, the DRC, to use Ben's example, where there's child labor. The environmental damage is significantly worse than if it were properly regulated in the United States. And part of this we live here philosophy we have is this saying that everybody goes home at night. And that's something that's really important to us, to our miners, because they've grown up, working in Nevada, working in the middle of nowhere in Alaska. They miss their kids growing up. They miss football games. They missed homecoming dances and all of that. And so when we were able to put a property into production in North Idaho, and those dads got to work where they lived and go home every night and go to bed and wake up, and it means a lot to us who, I guess, for lack of a better word, are asking them to do that work, to do the dangerous work of going underground every day, the hard work that they do. For us to at least provide them a place where they can do it and still be home every night means a lot to us. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Do we have any questions for Travis? Representative Raymond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much for your presentation. So Lemhi County is in my legislative district, and I know one of the challenges that we face up there is forest fires. And I know you mentioned that your sightings are underground, but have those negatively impacted your ability to get your stuff out on the transportation portion of it?
Yeah, so our underground mine is up in North Idaho. Around the town of Salmon, we have been impacted by the Moose Fire. So that went through right as we were supposed to start our first drill program. And so that was delayed probably a good 2 months. But one of the things we've done in Salmon, and our geologist who's here today has done a really good job of that, is he's worked well with the locals down there in Salmon. And so when that forest fire happened, we had all the guys who live nearby who were they're old retired businessmen, and they were driving our water truck for us. And so when that drill needed to come off the hill, we actually stored it at a local's house in Salmon. And he took care of it during the fire and all of that for us. And so it has impacted us, but I would say kind of that community relationship that Rob's been able to build down there really helped us out a lot. Because if that drill, if we didn't have those relationships, that drill would have been shipped back to Arizona, and we probably would have never drilled that property that year.
Very good. Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Next